On 5 News, ending the reliance on foreign doctors. Plans to train thousands more medics here in Britain are announced by the Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt. But the proposals have sparked a fresh clash with doctors' leaders, also on the programme. Will Brexit make us richer or poorer? We put the Prime Minister on the spot. The murder of EastEnders actress Cyan Blake and her children. A court hears she was planning to leave the partner who killed them. And the fiercest Caribbean storm for almost a decade. Hurricane Matthew hits Haiti with 140-mile-an-hour winds. Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. A plan to train up to 1,500 more doctors a year has come under fire tonight after the government said they should be homegrown to reduce our reliance on overseas medical staff. A quarter of the workforce currently comes from outside the UK, and the Health Secretary admitted the NHS would fall over without them. But he said that England should become self-sufficient in the future. Our health correspondent, Catherine Jones, reports.
Today, medical students Ozzy and Raj are drawing fake blood from fake arms, practising for the real patients they'll care for once they qualify.
Nan's going to cover it with the gauze and then remove the needle.
Throughout its history, the health service has never trained enough doctors, instead relying on the quick fix of recruiting abroad whenever a shortage looms. But today, the Health Secretary announced he's going to make England self-sufficient in homegrown doctors.
A quarter of our doctors come from overseas. They do a fantastic job, and frankly, the NHS would fall over without them. When it comes to those that are EU nationals, we've been clear we want them to be able to stay post-Brexit. But looking forward, is it right to carry on importing doctors from poorer countries that need them, whilst we turn away bright home graduates desperate to study medicine?
The Department of Health funds 6,000 medical school places a year. From 2018, that will now rise to 7,500. These extra doctors will start qualifying from 2024, and they'll have to work in the NHS for 4 years or risk paying back the £200,000 it costs to train them. However, 1 in 10 doctor posts in England are already vacant, and critics warn Brexit may create an even worse shortage well before the boost in British trained staff arrives.
The timetables and the numbers don't match up because the numbers of extra places that have been announced today at 1,500 a year couldn't possibly fill the hole if all overseas doctors decided to leave or indeed were required to leave.
Ozzy and Raj fear another problem. Will injecting more into basic training drain the cash available for the decade of further study they'll need to fulfil their potential?
I'm quite concerned that I might get stuck in a bit of a dead-end job where I'm working, but I'm not actually progressing my career and I'm not improving my ability to practice. I'm not training. Would it just be a case of we'll make sure lots of people become doctors but then have nowhere to go from there?
I think for patient-centred care, we want doctors who are in the places that they want to choose for the right reasons.
The government has conceded we do need to train more doctors, and that has been broadly welcomed. But in the short term, the NHS will still need to recruit doctors from overseas, and the government's Brexit plans cannot jeopardise that vital supply. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
Well, the promise to train more doctors was just one of a number of announcements made at the Conservative Party conference today. There were several on immigration. They included tougher laws on foreign criminals, with the repeat offenders of minor crimes being deported and banned from returning to Britain for up to a decade. There was also confirmation of a £140 million fund designed to ease the pressure on public services in areas of high migration. And employers, landlords and banks will be forced to do more to ensure they are tackling illegal immigration. And there was also one big announcement on British troops. They're going to be given new protection against what the Prime Minister called spurious legal claims relating to their service in Iraq or Afghanistan. Let's go live to that conference in Birmingham now and speak to our political editor, Andy Bell. A very busy day there, and you've been speaking to the Prime Minister today. Andy, what did she have to say?
Well, Sian, on the day that the pound hit a 31-year low against the dollar, I've been talking to the Prime Minister about Brexit and the economy. And also, when it comes to those doctors, I asked her if once Britain had trained enough homegrown doctors, the message to those foreign-born doctors who are here, would it be politely, would you now just go home, please?
Well, this will be for hospitals to decide who they employ in terms of the positions in their doctor options that they have, the openings that they have. But what we will see as a result of the decision the government has taken is more people here in the UK being trained to be doctors.
Because you never have given a guarantee to EU citizens who are legally living here and working here. You've never given them an unambiguous guarantee that they are OK to stay. You've always couched it in terms of the negotiations.
Well, what I've been very clear, what I've said is very clear, which is I expect to be able to guarantee the rights of EU citizens and the status of EU citizens here in the UK. I intend to be able to guarantee that, and I want to be able to guarantee it.
Well, why not guarantee it straight off? Take the moral high ground.
For a very good reason, Andy. Because there are British citizens living in other member states in the European Union, living in other countries in the European Union. And as I say, I want to be able to guarantee the status of EU citizens living here in the UK. The only circumstances in which that wouldn't be possible is if British citizens didn't have their status when they're living in other countries in the European Union, if that wasn't being guaranteed.
OK, your Chancellor works still on the assumption that Britain is going to end up overall poorer than it would have been otherwise because of Brexit. Do you agree with him?
No, what the Chancellor said, and I was there sitting listening to his speech yesterday, he said when people voted on the 23rd of June, they voted to leave the European Union. They didn't vote to become poorer. We must make sure that we are doing all the measures necessary to ensure that we can continue growth in the British economy.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what he actually said was he's still working on the central economic assumption and prediction that Britain will be 4% lower in GDP by 2030 than we would have been if we'd voted to stay in. Do you agree with that?
What we are doing is setting out very clearly, and of course the Chancellor will do this again later this autumn with his autumn statement, setting out the measures that the government will be taking to address the issues that we see in the British economy.
You've reached the pinnacle. Do you still feel now there are moments when you're judged in a way only because you're a woman? Do you still feel, in a sense, a kind of sexism still in the role you've reached?
Well, I've never really felt that. I just get on with the job, and I believe that's what's absolutely right.
Even when people talk about your clothes or things like that?
Well, in my political career, I've always believed, whatever job I'm in getting on and doing the best job possible for the British people, and that's what I'm going to do as Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, thank you very much.
And Andy, of course, the Prime Minister has her big speech tomorrow. Did she give you any hints on what she's likely to come up with?
Well, not from her, but I've been told that we shouldn't expect any big policy announcement tomorrow. What I'm expecting is much more a speech, if you like, where she introduces herself to the British people as Prime Minister, talking more about herself, what makes her tick and what she wants to do in this role. I think the other thing we should expect from the speech tomorrow is that she won't talk so much about Brexit. She talked about Brexit on Sunday, unusually in a speech at the beginning of the conference, and I really think that she wants to use the speech tomorrow to set out that she and her government will not be exclusively defined by Brexit. She doesn't want that to be the case, so we may hear more about her and about her agenda on social issues, on what she would call the fairness agenda. That's what we're expecting tomorrow.
And we'll be back with you then. Andy, for the moment, thanks very much. To the day's other news now, and a court has been told how former EastEnders actress and her two sons were beaten and stabbed to death by her partner after she decided to leave him. The court heard that Cyan Blake had recently been diagnosed with motor neurone disease, which left her unable to fight off Arthur Simpson Kent. Today, Cyan's mother said, "I would give my life for another moment with my daughter." Simon Vigar was at the Old Bailey.
11 days before Christmas last year, Cyan Blake and her two sons, 8-year-old Zachary and Amon, who was 4, were beaten and stabbed to death. The man who admits doing it was the boy's father, Arthur Simpson Kent. Cyan Blake played Frankie Pierre in EastEnders in the 90s. The court heard terminal motor neurone disease meant she wouldn't have been able to fight off her attacker. The bodies were eventually found buried in the garden at Erith in Kent, but not before Simpson Kent had fled to Ghana and sent misleading text messages from Cyan's phone. One, to her sister, read, "I'm taking time to myself and my children without constant opinions from family and friends. I've had enough of appeasing everyone. We are away, and I will not be calling or speaking to anyone for a few months."
The prosecution QC told the court that Simpson Kent had misled friends, family and police as to what he'd done and where his partner and children had gone. And listening all the time in the public gallery and in tears, the relatives of Miss Blake.
Simpson Kent told police he had a murder-suicide pact with Siam Blake. The prosecution say there is no evidence for that. They say the motivation was anger because she wanted to move out. In a statement to the court, the family said they are all living a life sentence of pain and sorrow. The sentencing hearing of the man responsible continues tomorrow. Simon Viger, 5 News.
Still to come on the programme. Police searching for the missing toddler Ben Needham tear down part of a farmhouse in Cos. Haiti gets ready for a metre of rain as Hurricane Matthew hits. And tempted by plastic surgery? A warning about the sales tactics some firms are using. All that and more after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News. The most powerful Atlantic storm for almost a decade has begun to batter the Caribbean. Hurricane Matthew is bringing winds of more than 140 miles an hour, as well as several feet of rain. Haiti is now feeling its full force, while Cuba and the Bahamas are in its path too. Yet, as Warren Nettleford reports, some residents are refusing to leave their homes.
From the vastness of space, these storm clouds below, which are obscuring a large part of the Caribbean, tell us what's coming is big. On the ground, this is what a Category 4 storm means to the people of Haiti. Winds of 145 miles per hour alongside torrential rainfall combining to provide the almost perfect storm. Even before the full force of Hurricane Matthew hit Haiti, conditions were perilous. The Haitian president raised concerns that people were refusing to listen to hurricane warnings.
Cyclone.
There are people who are out at sea, he said. There are people who are missing. There are people who didn't respect the alerts. They've lost their lives. That was the current president. This video was posted online by Haiti's former president. The eye of the storm passed over the capital Port-au-Prince earlier, and already there are signs of major damage. For a country still ravaged from its earthquake 6 years ago, aid workers say the next 24 hours are crucial.
Winds are rising, the sea is rising, there is flooding in the low-lying areas. People are evacuating their homes. The wind is beginning to destroy shelters, and people are congregating in schools and public places where the government has provided shelter.
As Hurricane Matthew slowly moves across the country, Haitians are waiting nervously to see the scale of the devastation it has left. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
The retrial has begun of footballer Ched Evans, who's accused of raping a woman in a hotel in 2011. The former Sheffield United player, seen here in the middle, was previously found guilty of the charge, but his conviction was later quashed by the Court of Appeal. Today, in court, the prosecutor said it's not possible the complainant consented to having sex with him because she was intoxicated. He denies the charge. The man accused of murdering MP Joe Cox has refused to speak when asked to enter a plea in court. Joe Cox was killed in Birstall, near Leeds, in June. Thomas Mayer is charged with offences including murder and possession of a gun and a dagger. The judge ordered that not guilty pleas should be entered. And MP Simon Danshuk has been told he won't face charges on rape allegations. Prosecutors dropped the investigation, saying there's not enough evidence. He remains suspended from the Labour Party, but says he's relieved the investigation is over. British detectives carrying out the search for the toddler Ben Needham in Cos have demolished part of a farmhouse near to where he was last seen. Officers were given permission by the current owners to dismantle the extension after noticing it had been built after Ben went missing in 1991. Chloe Potter has more.
Could this plot of land hold the clue to the disappearance of Ben Needham 25 years ago? Ground beneath this farmhouse on the island of Cos is one of the only unsearched areas in the police investigation. It's where the 21-month-old went missing during a visit to see his grandfather, who was renovating the property. The toddler wandered off to play and never returned. This is the building before today's work began. You can see the extension that has now been knocked down on the left. It was built after Ben went missing and so could be covering crucial evidence.
It goes right back to the nearest point of the earliest investigation that took place. When you look at that, you can clearly see that that lower part of the building was not present at the time that Ben disappeared. And as I say, I've got to be sure that I've covered everything before we leave this area.
Police returned to the farmland after a tip-off that Ben may have been killed in an accident with a digger and then buried here. The family who now live on the farm have agreed their home could be dismantled to help detectives with their investigation. Police, forensic experts and even archaeologists have been working alongside one another in the hunt for clues for 9 days now. Ben's mum, Kerry Needham, has expressed her gratitude for their dedication. She and her family are in daily contact with the police as they continue to try to finally find answers about what happened to her little boy. Chloe Potter, 5 News.
The tennis star Maria Sharapova has had her ban from the sport reduced. She was suspended for 2 years after testing positive for a drug that had recently been made illegal. That's been cut by 9 months, meaning she can play again in April next year. And we saw some of the big announcements of the Conservative Party conference earlier. Here's one the leader of the Welsh Conservatives might want to forget. As he gave his speech about Brexit, Andrew R.T. Davies tripped up, seemingly having his morning meal on his mind.
Working together with our excellent new Prime Minister, Theresa May, we will make Brexit a success. And conference, mark my words, we will make Brexit a success.
Every year, more and more people are deciding that cosmetic surgery is the answer to their worries about their appearance. But leading surgeons are warning that too many rogue clinics are targeting them with ruthless sales tactics. So they've launched a new tool to help choose the right procedure with the right doctor. Frankie McCamley met one woman who fell victim to a cowboy clinic.
Every 2 hours, Dawn has to put these eye drops in because the cosmetic surgery she had on her upper and lower eyelids went wrong.
I have counselling every 2 weeks. I suffer with anxiety from time to time. You know, I walked into a marble reception area and thought, I'm paying privately, I'm in good hands.
But it turned out her doctor wasn't insured. The operation left her unable to close her eyes.
And it's that sense of mistrust. It's that sense of growing up with our NHS, never questioning why would, you wouldn't go in to sit opposite a doctor and say, show us your insurance documents.
You've got a special promotion here.
Dawn says at the time of her surgery and now 4 years later, she's being bombarded with adverts for plastic surgery. The Royal College of Surgeons is now trying to counter what they describe as aggressive marketing by launching an online tool offering tips and advice. There are also plans for a register of certified surgeons. However, some experts say bad practice can never be stamped out.
I don't think you can actually stop it completely because anyone can call themselves a plastic surgeon. Anyone can do this and they don't have to provide this information. There's no law against it. But we just educate. And I think people are much better provided and they are more knowledgeable when they come along now.
Despite Dawn thinking this is a step in the right direction, she still wants even more regulation in the industry and hopes her story will encourage others to think twice before going under the knife. Frankie McCamley, 5 News.
That's almost it, but before we go, Matt's joined us. He's got a corking interview tonight, really interesting.
I have indeed, Sean, with someone who spent years on the front line of Britain's terror threat. I've been speaking to a former MI5 agent, Tom Marcus, who helped smash several major terrorist plots and save dozens of lives.
I was very, very nearly kidnapped and taken off the street by Islamic extremists. It's the first time we've ever seen that on UK soil, is where they actually turned and tried to target us. We were the hunters, we're the ones tracking these people down, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves as the ones who are being hunted.
Tom isn't his real name. He's keen to keep his identity a secret, but he's just written a book about his experiences, the first one by a field agent that MI5 has ever allowed to be published. See the full interview with me at 6:30. Also, why do young girls feel worse about themselves than ever before? New figures show even primary school children feel bad about how they look. We'll be asking why on 5 News Tonight.
Look forward to that. Thank you very much, Matt. That is it for now. Sian Welby has the weather next. I'll see you again tomorrow at 5. Matt, of course, back at 6:30. Thanks very much for watching this evening. Goodbye for now.